everyone. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, talking to you once more about what to look for in the night sky. We are all the way up to the last week of April 2021, so April 26th. We talk about every week as you watch these things, and I know you go back and study them. We talk about how we often like to discuss things that are you can look at over a long period of time, months or weeks or a year or whatever. And this is the case this week. We are, in fact, returning to our topic from a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the stars that are the real markers of the spring sky for me. Leo into Virgo into Arcturus into Boetes. So right now, Leo is this sort of triangle right here in the sky, and with a backward question mark, the sickle part. The brightest star in Leo is Regulus, right there. The bright star at the tip of the triangle is Denebola. So you go out, hopefully you've been working on this. Hopefully you've been practicing finding these stars, that there really are markers of spring. Right now, this Denebola right there, for example, rises in the middle of the afternoon and sets right around sunrise. So it's up all night long. As soon as it's dark, it's well placed in the south to look at and to observe, and it's there, a little bit east of south, and it's there the rest of the night. And so you can observe this just about any time you want. So let's expand this out. This region of the sky is our complex sort of big overview. If we expand that out, the triangle looks something like that. You come back, there's Regulus, there's your backward question mark, and that's what the pattern you're looking for. And we're trying to find Denebola here right now. So that's your pattern that you're going to go out and try to find. Hopefully you've been working on the last couple of weeks. We said we would return to this a couple of times, and here we are to talk about some of the things that are in this region. Arcturus is this bright star that's down here. Arcturus is the brightest of these stars. So we got Denebola, we got Spica, and we've got Arcturus. Arcturus has a little bit of an orangish red color to it. I think most people see it that way. And so you can see this pattern in the sky. There's a Y shape that comes up here in Virgo that sort of cups the Leo up this direction. But if you see these, Regulus is the brightest star. Regulus, Spica, and Arcturus make this triangle that you can see. Then find Denebola in the tip of the small triangle that forms the tail of Leo. And if you can find Denebola, and then draw a line to the brightest star in this region of the sky, so you got a nice straight line that connects Denebola in Leo over here to Arcturus. Just north of that line, you go about a fist and a half at arm's length. That's how we measure these things often. A fist and a half in the direction of Denebola from Arcturus, and look up just a little bit north of that line. You come to a globular star cluster. We've looked at globular star clusters before. These are big conglomerations of hundreds of thousands of stars, densely packed so that they look fuzzy. It's hard to see individual stars in there. Your binoculars will help you see this. You should be able to see this in your binoculars pretty well. M53. There's another globular cluster that forms a triangle more or less this shape up this direction. So about that distance, and then about that distance again up this way, just straight north of Arcturus, is M3. It's even brighter, I think. It's a little bigger, bright globular cluster here. And so you can see the two globular clusters in your binoculars. If you go back this direction, this region of the sky, so this sort of where Spica comes up here, and you got the Y of Virgo sitting underneath the triangle of Leo. That's part of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. And the Virgo cluster of galaxies is really the nearest big cluster of galaxies. Probably has about 1,500 members in the Virgo cluster. And so this is a whole bunch of galaxies like our own Milky Way. So big galaxies, small galaxies, medium-sized galaxies, galaxies that have, lots and lots of stars, hundreds of billions of stars to tens of billions of stars to maybe even smaller than that. But so you got a range of these things. You got maybe 1,500 of them in this Virgo cluster of galaxies, and it's relatively near to us, so we have a lot of targets to look for if you have a small telescope. Probably some of these you could see under dark skies with binoculars too. The Virgo cluster itself, that 1,500 galaxies, is part of maybe 100 groups and clusters of galaxies, like the Virgo cluster, that form the Virgo supercluster of galaxies. So if you think about scaling, we think about stars. You have individual stars. Often they form clusters, and then these clusters, these globular clusters, form a halo around the center of the galaxy. So there's a bigger group that contains all of these globular clusters. So you think about a lot of empty space. In space, there's a lot of it's empty, and in between, in between the denser objects where there's more stuff, and so the stuff clumps, matter clumps. Whether you're talking about stars, in this case, we're talking about galaxies, which is whole big conglomerations of stars clumping in clusters, and those clusters clumping in superclusters. All of this has a lot of empty space in between there, big voids between the different superclusters that we see out there. Anyway, a lot of these galaxies, if you have a small telescope, it's worth spending a little bit of time. And maybe one of the best ways to do that is go back to your line that connects the Denebola and Arcturus, and look here. If you move less than a fist width from Denebola, out at arm's width, back in the direction of Arcturus, very near that line is the galaxy M98. Just above that line, a little further out, that's about half a fist width, I'd say, from Denebola. 3/4 of a fist width, just above that line is M100. I think M98 is probably the easier of these to see, but either of them you might be able to see under dark skies with binoculars. A small telescope poking around here would allow you to see either one of them, presumably. If you could find those galaxies, and drop straight south from there, you get into a rich region of galaxies. And this rich region of galaxies, all part of the Virgo cluster of galaxies, it's so rich that if you have a go-to telescope that you can punch in a number, you can look some of these up, and you can stick in the number, the Messier number or the NGC number of the galaxies that you want, and go find them. If you're just scrolling around with a small telescope, you had a small telescope sitting around, and you're looking for something to look at, and you do this work, you move back this direction and drop south, you're going to start seeing little fuzzy patches. You'll have a hard time identifying what fuzzy patch it is, but you're going to look like little faint smudges of light, just little faint smudges of light. And once your eyes get adapted to that, once you start seeing those faint smudges of light, you start to realize they're all over in there. You have lots of faint smudges of light that you can see in this region. So I recommend strongly giving it a try. It's the kind of thing, it's not like looking at Saturn. You look at Saturn in a small telescope and you see the rings, and you see the Cassini division in the rings, you see the dark band in the middle of the rings, and you see the bright yellow gold globe there that is the planet. It's really impressive. And you see the moons of Jupiter. It just pops out. You're like, wow, that is beautiful. It's stunning. It's beautiful. These lack that sort of stunning, grab you like that, grab your attention sort of appeal. But what they have is the idea that you can say, here we are looking at other galaxies that are like our own Milky Way galaxies, maybe hundreds of billions of stars that we see as a little faint smudge of light. And oh, look, we can tweak the telescope just a little bit, and there's another one, and there's another one. Oh wait, now in my eyepiece field of view I see 2 or 3, and you start to pop around here and start to get a sense of the immensity of what we're looking at, and the immensity of the universe here. And this is just our nearest supercluster, our nearest cluster of galaxies. So it's worth giving it a try if you have a small telescope. If you don't, it's still worth a try, maybe with binoculars for sure, to look at the globular clusters, get to know this region of the sky, get to know the stars better. Hope you have clear skies. We had our first clear sky in a long time last night, so it was good to get out and do a little bit of observing again. Hope you get a chance to do some observing in the coming weeks. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you about something new next week.